Hello and welcome to a CX Moment. I'm Sarah Reed from Zendesk, and we're about to dive into all things CX at Compass. What's life like today, what's happening in their support centers, and of course, with their customer experience. And for all of you who may have had some technical difficulties logging in this morning, we thank you for persevering. It just kind of goes with the state of things, right? And we love taking questions during a CX moment, so please drop them into the Q&A. And if you like what we're chatting about, share it on social using hashtag CX Moment. We are joined today by someone really fantastic, Amy Velligan, Director of Support at the real estate company Compass. Amy previously worked at Walmart for 10 years as Director of Customer Care on their e-commerce platform, and we're delighted to hear from her wealth of experience today. But before we dive in, we want to hear just a little bit from you. You're going to see a poll pop up on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'd like to know, what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now when it comes to scaling growth in your service centers? So let us know what your biggest challenge is right now, and we'll give that just a moment. And some things, of course, support's not an executive priority. There's a lack of budget to invest, disjointed tech systems, siloed teams. Your outsourcing strategy maybe isn't what you want it to be, or you can't get permission for it. All right, let's get a couple more votes in, and then all right, let's go ahead and tally that up. Oh, disjointed systems, not surprising. I think Amy may have a few things to say about that. And support not being an executive priority. Certainly, I think we can all share in that, and a little bit to talk about there. All right. With that, I want to bring on stage the wonderful Amy from Compass. Hey, Amy.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thanks for being here. Now, I can't imagine in this time of just crazy, crazy real estate that Compass already isn't a household name for everyone. But just in case, what does Compass do?
Compass is the largest brokerage in the US right now. It's unique compared to other brokerages in that what they're offering is a technical platform for real estate agents that helps them better manage their own business. So part tech company, part real estate company.
Part tech, part real estate. Now, does that combination is that part of the reason why you're the largest brokerage in the country right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's something that's unique about the industry that we're offering that no other brokerages can offer right now, and that most other tech industries aren't. They're not tackling from this particular angle.
Well, I am one of those people who purchased a home during the pandemic, so over the last couple of years, and now I'm thinking about where's next. The real estate market is crazy hot. So at Compass, your customers are mainly real estate agents, if I have that correct, but you also service internal support requests. Now, I imagine those are pretty different interactions. What are the main differences there?
Yeah, I think, the main customer when we think of customer is the real estate agent, but then our customers have customers and those are their clients. And then we have consumers at the far end who are not connected to a real estate agent at all, but maybe are looking or on our website trying to find something. We also have our internal customers who are staff who still need the same kind of support or IT support or product support as our customers do. So it's really about knowing like who your customer is when they're calling sport so that you can get them to the right person and answer them the right way. We also have a unique support model where we have boots on the ground in our offices called an
Ah,
agent experience manager. And that's a support role, but it's really like a very in-person dynamic, which is something that real estate really values. It's all about relationship building and having your people there. And so oftentimes we're servicing the customer, the real estate agent, but via their agent experience manager who's reaching out on their behalf to the centralized support teams.
interesting. So in that model, there's almost a little bit of translation that might have to occur too,
Exactly.
because the person actually asking you the question is pulling it from someone else. And so I would imagine you have to do a little digging and deep diving triage in those kind of interactions.
Yeah, and I really find it analogous to back when I was at Walmart. I did customer care for online grocery, and we had the stores would call customer care on behalf of the customer to figure out something. And it was just really, we're two members of the same team faced with a problem with maybe different access or views, and we're working towards the same end goal, which is servicing the customer. So it's just having your in-region support and your centralized support always be working together towards the same end goal.
So, because your customers are so different in their varying degrees of need, it's very, very important, I would imagine, to get them routed correctly to the right agent at the right time.
Yeah, I think that's something that Compass struggles with right now. We're getting better at it, but we've recently implemented some NLP, natural language processing rules that help identify what the customer is talking about and trying to get it routed to the right team. Because it isn't just who they are; it's what they're talking about. There's many different second level support teams at Compass, including product support, IT support. We have an onboarding support team. We have our account provisioning team. They've set it up in a way so that there's a lot of specialists who can provide very high touch service, which only works if you get to the specialists. And if you're sent to the general queue or you get bounced around a lot, then a customer gets really frustrated. So I think that that's probably our main challenge that I'm working to solve for this year.
So, divulge a little bit for us. What do real estate agents most ask about? And is it about us crazy buyers and sellers?
No, centralized support is so unique, and that question's really hard to answer because my teams are all siloed teams. And so, the highest IT question is how do I connect my device or how do I connect to an external printer? Whereas, like in product support, it's more like I can't search the MLS, which is the kind of like the Zillow
Right.
search tool. Where, to the AEMs, it's more like in person, like how do I schedule this meeting with this client? So it really depends. There's a lot of financial transaction questions that come into our transaction ops teams. So it's hard to say like what is the number one thing that they complain about. Like there's a lot, and there are specialists who are really helping them get to the right answer with some very complicated real estate questions.
I have just so many follow-on questions with that because your model sounds incredibly complicated. And I mean, for starters, how do you train all these different specialties?
Yeah, I think that's it's definitely challenging to have this type of white glove model. And it's totally different, different industry, different type of experience than when I was at Walmart. And so challenging for me too to kind of really say like, what can we do to standardize, streamline, and scale this? Because what we have built is so white glove and high touch that it's not that cost efficient. And so what we're trying to do is build a technology platform that's going to be a single point of ingress and then expand that natural language processing rule set to help really route things correctly and make sure that you have visibility into everything that they've talked about or who they've talked to before. So if your customer goes into like the generalist queue and they've done some set of troubleshooting before we route it up to IT, you can see the background of what's already happened on that ticket.
If you are listening, please feel free to interrupt us with some questions. So pop those into the Q&A. As we mentioned, Amy has this very unique experience coming from a large entity like Walmart now into something much more specialized in white glove like Compass. So let's talk about that a little bit. Going back to your previous experience with Walmart, not disparagingly at all, but they were not really known for white glove service. You were really about scale, right?
Certainly, I would say that when people think of Walmart, they think of that. But with online grocery, which was my area of customer service, we were able to really provide what customers felt like was a white glove service. Pickup and delivery was, somebody else shopping for you, and then just loads it right into your car or delivers it to your doorstep. And the customer service that went alongside that type of service was considered to be, like in Walmart standards, white glove. Certainly, I don't think it was quite as complex of a service model as I have at Compass, but we definitely got really high CSAT scores with the model that we were able to provide, and we were able to scale it. So with Walmart, it was able to prove that you don't have to sacrifice quality for scale. You just really need to prepare for it before you do it. if you have the right kind of knowledge base and guided workflows in place, so that and that your frontline feels empowered, because the more layers that you put in and the more approvals you need, it feels to the customer like that person can't help, and then they don't have confidence that they're going to get the right solution from that frontline agent. So we really broke it down and really helped look at each unique kind of process flow and say, okay, like why are we requiring approval over X amount of dollars from a manager? Like if we approve it 100% of the time, it doesn't need an approval, right? So like
Let them do it.
let's just let them do it, and like let's look at the reporting, and if it's out of control, like we can handle this from like a data backend place and manage it by individuals instead of just blanket putting handcuffs on all agents in that scenario.
I think what you just described is absolutely fascinating because you are talking about a really personalized experience back out to that end user customer because you were using all this data to empower your agents to make smart decisions. And that's, I think, something we oftentimes struggle with, where we don't want to trust the agents to make those decisions, but you're saying, hey, the data is telling us that they're
Yeah.
asking the right questions. And so let's just allow them to do it.
I would much rather trust the data, and take my learnings from there. And I think part of the challenge is always that nobody is like, oh, you've got a dedicated BI team for customer care. You have to really push for that and ask for that and say, like, is this metrics like what we're learning here is what's wrong with the business and how to solve it, and really take all of that information and build your relationships with your other business teams, whether that's product and engineering or it's operations or whoever, to say like we've got to change this process, this piece of the website or the app, because this is what customers are saying, and tie it back to your dollar value and say build the right business case to get those changes in. Then they trust the data that's coming from you. When you're looking at like what your agents are doing, and people are like, whatever, your refund rate is out of control, you have to go back in and say like, why is that? Is it because that particular product is breaking all the time? Because then it's not our agents, and we're not going to handcuff the agents for
Right.
refunding that product, right? Like we should just pull that product from the website. So it's really looking about at it from a data perspective and slicing and dicing it different ways to see what's the root cause, because agents are not giving out refunds to like spend money. They're doing it to
Right.
help customers, right?
They're like, this is
So
so fun. I want to give
yeah.
out more refunds.
Yeah. So you really have to understand, why is the agent doing that, and then what is the root cause of that particular behavior, and I try to fix it as eliminate the defect. Don't handcuff the agent.
You were at Walmart when the pandemic hit a couple of years ago, and I would say you all were better positioned to handle what was going on because you had this at-home process already in place and all the things that you're talking about. But I would expect certainly home delivery and in-store shopping would skyrocketed, right?
Yes, yeah. A Walmart was I guess uniquely positioned. We definitely had challenges. We had one provider that had work from home, and so we had some experience with work from home and how it operated. We weren't like super stoked about that model. We thought it was harder to like train in that model and get agent engagement, and attrition was higher and all of that. But we had it right. We knew how it worked, and so when the pandemic happened, we went to all of our other providers and was like, "How fast can you make your people work from home?" And so it really depended on the country. And luckily, we had a lot of providers to choose from, because just because of our scale, we have to spread out the volume in
Right.
order to ramp up and down for holiday. And so we had some providers who were like really great and was like, oh, we can get you here, here, and here. And we had others who were like, El Salvador is completely shut down. We can't move at all. We can't go to the office to get laptops. No people can move out of their place. We're shut down. We're out of luck there. And so it was about taking every single unique situation and moving it at home, working through our security and risk team to get them set up to do that, which was like a major lift. Usually things that like took us 3 months to get through a security review, we were doing within a week. And we got grocery was the first one to get everybody to work from home, and which was good because our volume spiked significantly. And so not only were we like, okay, everyone's back at home and working, but we're like, yeah, hire, like go out and hire people, like we need you.
We need
Um,
lots of people.
So it was a really good learning experience of like what is the limit of what you could do, because all of these things that people were like, oh yeah, it takes 3 to 6 months to do this, like we all did it in a week, and like that was it was like we removed all of this red tape roadblocks that Walmart's really like famous for having red tape right, because it's just been around for too long.
Right.
So I think some of the learnings that I took from that over to Compass Rate has had a work from home model for its tier two teams since before the pandemic. But some of the things about the work from home model, like were less efficient. Challenges with our internal agents using our vacation policy, which is very liberal at Compass. For example, we have unlimited sick time. And so for us, we can't even like have an attendance or adherence metric because you can just take a sick day or a mental health day anytime, which is a wonderful benefit. And I don't want to remove that from our people, but
But
it
it's
makes it really hard
incredibly
to plan
challenging
for.
when you're trying to do schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then so look at taking that and our work from home model and the outsourcing and internal blend that I had from Walmart and kind of implementing that at Compass, where I was like outsources solve this problem of people, taking high absenteeism. And so we just need to have a better blend of like what it is that we're using to provide this kind of service.
So that leads beautifully into a question that's coming in around, examples of scaling and maintaining high customer satisfaction. Certainly working with outsourcers is one wonderful way of doing that. I come from a long tenure of outsourcing, and so I love the model. It's something I can talk about for hours. But other than that, are there additional ways that you took some scaling lessons either from Walmart and brought them to Compass, or just things that you uh, realized you had to implement at Compass because now the real estate market is taking off in a crazy way?
Yeah, so scale, when I think about scale, I'm a big fan of outsourcing as well. And I think that you need to not only blend internal and outsource, but don't put all your eggs in one basket on your outsource side, because then they can have too much control over your model. And if one outsourcer fails, another can take up the slack, right? So if one is understaffed or overstaffed or whatever. Um, the other things that we really look at in terms of scale is we need to get ahead of the forecasting. And so it's a relationship building internally to really understand where are you going next year. And a lot of like growth things are really need to know confidential. And so it's really about making the other teams understand that you have a volume based model and that you need to prepare for that. And in order to do that, you need to know the assumptions that you can put in there. For example, when we were at Walmart and pick up a delivery, they decided to really focus on expanding pickup prior to delivery. Delivery had a higher contact rate than pickup did. And so we were like, we need to know exactly which stores are pickup and which stores are delivery and model it out different ways based on that assumption so that we can scale appropriately. We don't want to overstaff because we have a higher contact rate than we know we're going to get next year, even though we're expanding exponentially. So and then understanding those inputs, right? Because if you were just using one contact rate in that particular example, you would have scaled too much, right? Because the delivery was not as a big of a part of your model. I also think that process improvement and really looking at every SOP all the time is a great way to make sure that you can scale and work more efficiently. Having your processes automated where they can be. For example, account provisioning is a big thing that we do at Compass. It's manual. And I was like, hey, we're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Like, let's invest like
There must
one
be some
quarter in this.
automation we can put into this.
Yeah, so there's so automation in your SOPs and even just actual process changes that you have 100% control over can be big wins for your scalability, because everything that reduces your handle time increases the capacity that your agents can work, and that's going to help the amount of calls that they're going to take. Because at the end, if you do have to scale to something massive like what Walmart had, every call needs to be monitored as short as possible because you have to get to all of these customers, right? And if you answer one customer, great, and get 100% that, but you missed 10 calls because you don't have enough people there, like it's not, you're not doing a good job at customer service. So like every aspect has to be looked at kind of prior to scale.
I know there are a lot of strategies for this, but do you have a couple favored strategies of aligning your internal teams alongside your offshore teams? And thanks to Becky for that great question.
I really like using a champion challenger model. So if my internal teams are going to be higher paid and, like native speakers versus other people, then they better be performing better. I will, I'll have a very transparent kind of scorecard of saying like, here's how this team is doing versus, and like you're all like kind of stack ranked, and
Mhm.
you can see exactly where you are in terms of performance to the other vendors or to the internal teams. And then I like taking my internal teams. I like to keep a small group internal because the staffing challenges make it harder to really like flex them up and down. So if I have a small internal team, they're also probably the subject matter experts and they've been there a while and they're like, I've invested in these people. And then I use them for piloting new processes and seeing if things will work. And if it does work and I take their feedback, then I can push it out to the outsourcers without too much disruption because we've already kind of tested it with that internal group.
If we were in the same room, I'd high five you right now because I was on the partner side of things, and I have to tell you that the transparency when you're utilizing multiple outsourcers is so imperative to success. For one outsourcer to understand what the other ones are doing and how they're getting there, that just raises everybody up. It's like it's beautiful
Exactly.
competition, but it's also doing the right thing by the business and the company.
Well,
So
and I think that they know, like, is this metric realistic, right?
right.
Because if somebody's meeting it, then yeah, it's
And
realistic,
then we can do
right? Yeah.
it. um, sorry, I'm looking at questions here. Oh, great question around how do you present that blend of outsourcing that you talked about to your higher ups who might be hesitant to like commit to a model like that?
Yeah, so this is actually something we're experiencing at Compass right now, where they've had a bad experience in the past with an offshore outsourcer who couldn't perform the same as their internal teams. And so what I've proposed that we do is have an outsourcer who's onshore, and that has the capability to grow offshore or near shore in the future, but really focus it on like, hey, it's the same kind of like labor pool as what we would be using, except that they have more flexibility with staffing and going up and down where we don't because we have like our hard headcount needs and like and Compass isn't set up to say like, okay, let's bring in a new wave every couple of weeks. So like really and then showing them the dollar amount, right? Like here's the actual like amount we're spending in our internals fully loaded, right? Not just their like their costs versus the hourly cost of the BPO and saying like, hey, like we can save this. It'll be the same amount of people and service, and then saying like, I always like piloting everything. Like, let's start with a small group. Let's see
Right.
how they do. We don't need to just like fire everybody tomorrow or even fire anybody because like our internal teams have so much more subject matter expertise
Mhm.
than the amount of work that we want to just be on frontline phone calls. Like we can turn them into tier two teams or we can push them in other directions that are still going to help in the customer support org. So have a small pilot with the outsourcer and then compare it to the results of our internal teams. Which we've done so far with great success and great savings for some of the internal support teams.
Samantha, I'm going to ask your question in a roundabout way. Samantha's asking about ticket triaging. Is there a set team that handles that entry level inquiry? And then I want to know, do you have centralized workforce management or is workforce management also distributed?
I just hired my workforce manager because Compass had no workforce manager
What?
at all.
I can't.
Yes. So it was the very first thing I did. I was like, "Who's your workforce person? We got to get this
I'm
on
like,
right
what?
now."
We need one
Yeah.
of those?
Yes. So, I mean, Compass's model prior has been to have internal support, and they just overstaffed. And so I was like, hey, like we can definitely do this better. We do have one outsourcer who's doing kind of the triaging. And I think we're not leveraging our current outsourcer enough, right? If all they're doing is triaging tickets, like that really could be done offshore. But we want people to answer and execute on the tickets. And so but the like knowledge base isn't in the right place to have all of the answers there. And a lot of our contact types are complex, right? Like a product support, like troubleshooting ticket where you're like trying to debug something, or some IT issue where you're like having to go through major like computer steps. They're not things that you just know, right? You kind of have to look up, here's the issue and here's all the steps that I could go through. And our knowledge bases aren't in the position to really make sure that our frontline group is well prepared to answer those types of questions. So we're going to approach it as one, if we know that this can only be handled by a secondary team, like a tier 2 team, we don't need to put it through a manual triage. We want it to skip straight to the tier 2 team. And two, we want to make sure that our tier 1 team can handle like 70 to 80% of everything that's coming in. And we're not there today. So we need to look at all of our processes and all of the contact types, make sure every contact type that comes in maps down to a knowledge base article, which maps to an email or chat template, which can pop up a suggested verbiage or steps or even a guided workflow to get them to the right answer.
Well, I have to say, you should perhaps teach a contact center 101 class, because you have, in the course of the last like 20 some minutes, just given such expert advice on things that people should be doing in their centers. So I want to know then, and clearly so does Brian, what advice would the Amy of today give to the
Hmm.
Amy 5 years ago?
This is a great one because the Amy of today is in a similar position to Amy of 5 years ago. So when I started with Walmart Online Grocery, it was tiny. I had 7 agents, 7 outsourced agents, and then when I left Walmart during the pandemic at our peak, we had about 2,500 outsourced agents. So like major scaling, like for that to happen. And now I'm back to a point where I like our outsourced team. We have about 45 people, and in source we have maybe 100, but like that's not 2,500. So I
Right.
feel like I'm still like in the startup part of my Walmart days where I'm like, okay, we're going to continue scaling and growing, and how do we really do that, and how do I make that more cost efficient and a better experience? Because right now I think that our model is just it's a little bit hard. It's hard to be flexible, and we really need that in customer care in order to be answering calls on time, and to not and to get that executive buy-in to say like, hey, we are being cost efficient and we're doing this in the right way. So I think I would tell myself from 5 years ago, um, data is your friend, and we use that every day. Relationship building is the most important part of customer care. So make sure you know your stakeholders in the business, who could be a problem and block you from doing what you want to do. Make them your best friend. Um, and really work to not impede the agent, but eliminate the defect, right? I sometimes say that my job is to put myself out of a job. If I can eliminate all the defects that are in the customer journey, nobody has to call customer care, right? And that's maybe unrealistic to say, but like that's what the goal is to keep attacking all of those defects until you've made that part of the journey a perfect end-to-end journey.
We are going to have to invite you back, because there is so much more to unpack here. You have given such phenomenal advice, and we are sadly out of time. So I want to thank you, Amy, for sharing your expertise and for giving us those great bits of insight. I highly encourage people, we'll send out this recording, get it in the hands of your leads, get it in the hands of your managers, because there's really great information here. And please give us feedback. We love feedback, so respond to the poll, and we're going to choose 10 random respondents who will each get $5 Starbucks e-gift card, because everybody in customer service can use some more caffeine. And please join us on March 24th, and we'll talk to the director of brand marketing for one of my favorite brands, and clearly my corgis agree, wine.com. And then in April, we'll chat with yet another brand I'm excited about, and that is Spartan Race. So until then, thank you all again. Be safe, be helpful, and we'll chat again soon. Bye,
Thanks
everyone.
so much, Sarah.